It's a warm welcome to our studio here in Sarakunda. This is Star TV News with me, Dado Cham. In the headlines tonight, COVID-19 update on top Gambian officials. Gambia has registered 128 new cases of COVID-19 as 2 new deaths recorded. Gambia Red Cross Society plays crucial role in curbing COVID-19. Grade 12 teachers call for closure of schools. On the international scene, Australian military steps in to enforce COVID-19 lockdown. Curfew in Kashmir ahead of autonomic revocation anniversary. North Island leader John Hume passes away. Those were the headlines, and now the news in details. In 2 press releases, it states the Lord Mayor of KMC, Talib Ahmed Bensouda, tested positive for COVID-19. He is in good spirit and has since been placed on isolation and is well on his way to recovery. The Council hereby reminds the general public to take proactive measures and ensure that WHO and the Ministry of Health guidelines are followed by observing social distancing, wear face masks and stop public gatherings. However, the public is hereby informed that His Excellency Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, has tested negative for the coronavirus. The President's sample was taken on Thursday, 30th July 2020, and the results came on Monday, 3rd August 2020. The Office of the President sees this opportunity to wish all those infected a speedy recovery and pray for the departed souls to rest external peace. The message ends. 128 new cases registered in the Gambia on Tuesday, 3rd July 2020, the highest reported in a single day thus far, taking the total number of COVID-19 cases ever confirmed in the country to 799 and 2 new deaths recorded. About 30% of these are health workers, mainly from MRC, Pakala and Sharap Clinic. 2 new deaths recorded, bringing to 16 the total number of documented COVID-19 related deaths in the country. A crude case fatality ratio of 2.0%. Samples from both disease cases was collected posthumously. 36 new recoveries recorded, bringing the total number of recoveries to 115. 324 new laboratory test results received. 177 from MRCG and 147 from NPHL. Of this, 176 tested negative, both new and repeats. 136 returned positive, 8 repeats and 128 new, and 31 tested inconclusive or probable for COVID-19, whereas 81 persons were newly taken into quarantine, 90 were discharged. The country currently has 520 people in quarantine. 662 active cases, 74 probable cases, and a crude case fatality ratio of 2.0%. In an exclusive interview with Star TV, the Secretary General of the Gambia Red Cross Society spoke to us about the step taken by them to address the deadly coronavirus and also the difficulties they encounter. Binta Koli has more on that story.
The Gambia Red Cross has been working tirelessly to cope the deadly coronavirus. They have put many measures in place with the Ministry of Health in combating the virus. They have built their own plans based on the Red Cross rule in supporting the government battle the virus.
This plan was developed and with the support of our headquarters in Geneva, we received some assistance in terms of financing to start the operation. So we have been doing first and foremost community engagement and risk communication. Even before schools closed, our volunteers were involved in sensitization in schools, in communities, and in public places. Now, apart from that, we developed a plan that will respond in terms of when people get positive, we transport them. We have ambulances that have been transporting some of the positive cases from one location to the other. We have volunteers who have been trained and prepared to work with the Minister of Health in terms of other aspects of the response, particularly when it comes to contact tracing, and then, of course, when it comes to safe and dignified burial.
The Secretary General also said the Red Cross have been providing humanitarian assistance to Gambians during this trying time.
Humanitarian response, which is the more in terms of mitigating the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, where we have supported families with some livelihood interventions. And this has been done. We've also provided hygiene material and equipment to different places and different institutions, and including the fumigation of many institutions and households. So in summary, we are really complementing what government is doing as an auxiliary, because this was, in the first place, the mandate of the Red Cross in the Gambia even before COVID.
According to him, with all their unflinching support, they are also having some difficulties, as many Gambians do not believe in the existence of COVID-19. He also gave steps on how to address some of those issues.
The magnitude is so big. I mean, the challenges are that people are not responsive enough. There is so much denial about it. Probably what is responsible for that could be the whole myth around COVID. And this is not only in Gambia, but it's all over the world. But I think as time goes on, we need to think through in terms of our risk communication strategy, because that's the only way we can adapt to better understand how people think and then approach it in a different way. But by and large, the challenges are related to lack of acceptance by many of Gambians, and which I think is normal, but we have to try and change that.
Mr. Senghor added that curbing the virus is a collective responsibility, and added that the strategy taken by the government at the start of the virus was not done in a strategic way. Nonetheless, the Red Cross have reported to have buried 23 dead bodies so far. 14 of them were confirmed to have died from COVID-19. 9 were suspected to have died from COVID-19, but it is yet to be confirmed that they did. For Star TV News, I am Binta Kweli.
2 grade 12 teachers at Masroud Senior Secondary School have asked that school be closed as coronavirus continues to ravage all aspects of life, including the education sector. Jacqueline Colley reports.
Both students and teachers alike continue to live in uncertainty and fear as the deadly disease rocks the country. Looking at the situation right now, students are not responding as expected because parents know how dangerous this COVID-19 is. Parents do not allow their kids to go to school, and the preventive measures they can use to prevent their kids from the virus is to prevent them from going to school. Owing to this, the schools are really handicapped. You enter into a classroom as a teacher and will find few students sitting down. Teacher Kiski Sedikan told the Fatu Network. Meanwhile, an examination candidate at Masur, Aliu Saho, detailed how their school calendar was abruptly disturbed by the early untimely closure of the school in the country because of the pandemic, and the reopening of schools with the increasing number of cases is affecting them mentally. He said COVID-19 has impacted a lot on our education, because when they go to school now, there is constant fear, as the Ministry of Health says that there are currently community transmissions. This is evident of the fact that lately the cases that have been registered have no known contacts. He added that there is always constant fear that they might have the virus because people are coming from different homes, and it's really difficult to implement the rules of coronavirus in schools. Though the students are adhering to the rules, it's difficult to observe them strictly in a teaching and learning environment. In another development, the UTG, like its sister higher learning institutions, have relaxed some of their restrictions after the lifting of the state of public emergency by government. However, as the surge in the number of COVID-19 cases continues, the Higher Education Ministry deemed it necessary to have the UTG shut down to prevent the spread of the virus and protect staff and students in those institutions. The closure has been extended to the Gambia College, Gambia Training and Technical Institute GTTI, and Management and Development Institute MDI. Jacqueline Colley reporting for Star TV News.
Those were the local stories. We will be back with the international news after the short break.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulunding, Holding. We are also producers of Jeja Mineral Water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding. Gash.
And now beyond our borders. Hundreds of military personnel are being deployed to the Australian state of Victoria to help enforce coronavirus isolation orders. The state has introduced a number of tough measures to control its outbreak, which is expected to lead to thousands of job losses. Al Jazeera Nicola Gage has more.
Peak hour in Australia's second largest city, public transport normally filled with workers is now near empty. Tough measures including an overnight curfew are in place to slow the spread of COVID-19 as the number of new daily cases remains in the triple digits, and the government is doing everything in its power to make sure people stay in their homes unless it's absolutely necessary. Tough fines have been introduced for anyone breaching isolation.
Apart from emergency medical care, there is literally no reason for you to leave your home. And if you were to leave your home and not be found there, you will have a very difficult time convincing Victoria Police that you had a lawful reason.
The government says nearly a third of people with COVID-19 who were visited by authorities weren't at home, which has been leading to community transmission. Now, rules have been tightened. People can't step out of their homes. The only exemption, health reasons. Hundreds of military personnel are being deployed to help Victorian police enforce the isolation orders, some of the toughest restrictions on the movement of people Australia has ever seen.
We've had to smash the windows of people in cars and pull them out of there so they could provide their details because they weren't telling us where they were going. They weren't adhering to the Chief Health Officer guidelines.
With more businesses closing in construction, retail and other industries, the state's economy has stalled and thousands of people are expected to lose their jobs or be stood down. Victoria makes up nearly a quarter of the national economy, and with restrictions to remain in place for at least 6 weeks, some experts are warning that Australia's recession could now last all year, leaving little chance of an economic recovery anytime soon. Nicola Gage, Al Jazeera, Sydney.
Indian Minister Kashmir is in lockdown to prevent protesters from gathering to mark exactly a year since the region lost its special status. A curfew has been imposed in the area. Many local political leaders have been in detention for months. Al Jazeera Charles Stafford reports.
Sohail Ahmed Khan has come to pray at his father's grave. 65-year-old Bashir Ahmed Khan was shot dead during what Indian security forces say were clashes with armed men in the northern Kashmir town of Sopore on July the 1st. They say he was caught in the crossfire. This video shows his body on the road near the car he and his 3-year-old grandson were travelling in. A photo showing the child sitting on his dead grandfather caused outrage. The family accuses the security forces of putting the boy on top of the dead man so they could take pictures. Police reportedly filmed him crying as they drove him away from the scene.
The locals who witnessed it say that firing did happen, but it had stopped sometime before Bashir Ahmed Khan's car reached the spot. He was dragged out of the car and fired upon.
The latest report from the rights group Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society says Sohail's father was one of at least 32 civilians killed by Indian security forces in Kashmir since January. It's been a year since the Indian government cancelled a constitutional provision that for the past 70 years had guaranteed limited autonomy to the Himalayan region, the move effectively annexing parts of the disputed territory.
Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says Muslim-majority Kashmir needs to be better integrated into the rest of the country. India has more than 500,000 troops stationed in the region. Soldiers patrol virtually empty streets. The government has repeatedly shut down the internet over the last year and access remains restricted. The Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the economy lost $2 billion during the initial crackdown in the second half of 2019. COVID-19 has made things even worse. Tens of thousands, mostly civilians, have been killed in the 30 years since an uprising began demanding greater self-determination. Rights groups and activists say the government ending Kashmir's autonomy has reinvigorated recruitment into armed groups.
Everything was done on the name of prosperity, peace. But if you see on the ground, things have been otherwise. Whatever little freedom was given, by before 5th of August here, in the governor's rule or before the previous governments, are no more.
The Indian government continues to deny journalists working with the international media permission to visit Kashmir.
The militants and their stooges were behind the filing of the false complaints of human rights violation against the security forces, against the police agencies. I'll not deny, and there may be some cases of human rights violations also, not denying that, and strict action should be taken against the persons who are violating the human rights of anybody.
For Sohail and many Kashmiris like him, the sense of isolation from the outside world and the struggle for their rights gets harder by the day. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera.
Tributes are being paid to Northern Ireland political leader John Hume, who has died at the age of 83 following a long illness. Al Jazeera Lehandra has more on the life and legacy of the Nobel Peace Prize winner and leading a player in the Northern Ireland peace process.
Born in Londonderry in 1937 during the Great Depression, John Hume was regarded as one of the greatest heroes in Northern Ireland. He joined the civil rights movement in 1968 and fought against discrimination by the Protestant majority in the region, in areas including housing and education. From the start of his 30-year career, he championed peace, especially as violence intensified between Irish nationalists and pro-British forces from the 1960s to 90s in what became known as the Troubles. In 1970, he co-founded the Social Democratic and Labour Party, or SDLP. And in 1979, Hume was elected to the European and British parliaments and also became SDLP leader. In the late 1980s, he was described as the man who kept hope alive during the fighting between Catholic and Protestant paramilitary groups. World leaders supported his efforts towards a peace agreement.
I think that there has to be strong hard work to fully implement the agreement and all its aspects, because once the institutions are in place, then the real healing process will take place as the representatives of all sections of our people start working together.
In 1998, the former teacher gained international attention after receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for spearheading the Good Friday Peace Agreement, putting an end to the fighting in Northern Ireland.
Naturally, I hope that the future will be dominated by normal politics and that violence is definitely a thing of the past and that we will have really normal politics.
He held his post as leader of the SDLP until 2001, when he stepped down because of poor health. Hume died in a nursing home in the same city where he was born. He was 83.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. COVID-19 update on top Gambian officials. Gambia has registered 128 new cases of COVID-19 as 2 new deaths recorded. The Gambia Red Cross Society plays crucial role in COVID-19. Grade 12 teachers call for closure of schools. In the international scene, Australia military steps in to enforce COVID-19 lockdown. Curfew in Kashmir ahead of autonomic revocation anniversary. North Ireland leader John Hume passes away. And that's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs. Thank you for joining us.